We're here at Linaro Connect in Hong Kong, and I'm with Lars Kurth. Lars, you're the Zen Community Manager. So can you tell people a little bit about what you do in the Zen community and a little bit more about the Zen community itself?
Well, my name's Lars. I'm mainly bringing people together. Various vendors in the Xen ecosystem. A bit about the Xen community. Well, Xen's a 10-year-old project. We have an awful lot of users, at least 10 million. Many big companies like Amazon, Rackspace, Google and others use Xen. And it's actually quite a vibrant developer community as well, right? So we have about 15 major vendors contributing to the project. Major vendors are vendors contributing more than 1%. And there's interesting names amongst them, such as, like the usual suspects, Intel, AMD, Citrix as well, Amazon, but then we also have the NSA and other, less usual suspects in the virtualization space.
You were here, you did a Zen on ARM session, but you were also part of the keynote this morning, which was about Zen on ARM. How do you see, what is Linaro's, how are we getting involved in what you're doing? How are you getting involved in what we're doing? And how can we work together? How can the communities work more together?
Well, up to now, we've had one-to-one relationships with many of the vendors in the ARM and Linaro ecosystem. And part of the reasons for that is that server hardware for ARM isn't really available at this stage. But what I'm hoping will happen once we join the Linaro Enterprise Working Group, which I think is going to happen on 1st of April, not an April's Fool's joke, by the way, is to really help build these relationships and collaborate more around virtualization and particularly Xen on ARM. Individual community members, now as we have Xen working on freely available boards such as the Armdale board as well as the Samsung Chromebook, and there'll be more coming out in the near future, it's actually possible for individuals to contribute to the project whereas beforehand you could only get prototype hardware or you would have to get a fast model simulator from ARM or something like that, and now we're at the stage where actually individuals can really easily contribute to the project.
I'm looking forward to that collaboration, and one of the themes that, while it's not a formal theme, that's sort of been the hallway tracks, and with John Corbett's keynote, that open collaboration and that openness and how we do those things. So I'm looking forward to that collaboration and how our communities can work together and see what we can get pushed upstream in various places. So I think it's going to be fun to see the influences that your community has on us, but yet the influence that we have with you as well.
And that's actually a really interesting aspect, because Jonathan sort of brought up this metaphor of the messy child open source project, and and at least in the first 6 or 7 years, Xen was very much like that. We've been trying to upstream Xen support into the Linux kernel for 5 years, and it took 6 years to do that, a long hard slog. And through that experience, actually, the Xen community learned a lot more, and it's really following a lot of those principles now, which Jonathan, laid out, and so we can bring some of that experience and some of the challenges into the Linaro community as well.
I know I always learn something from you when I get to sit down and just chat with you for just a few minutes in those hallway tracks, and or at an event, whether it's like Scale or a community event. So it's always great. What do you hope that people take away from your session? I know you get a lot of traction out of being involved in the last Connect when we were in Copenhagen. I want to see that traction continue to build. I want to see people continue to come to you guys excited about Zen, excited about Zen on Arm, and where is this going and how they can help. What do you hope people take away from both the keynote and your Zen on Arm session?
Well, first of all, we're quite proud of what we pulled off in a relatively short time. And it's also really, if you look at Xen on Arm, it's actually really simple and probably very easy to understand and get to engaged with. A lot simpler than Xen on x86. And that should create opportunities for people. We're already seeing that momentum. We just need to build on that. And and as more code and more momentum builds, and I saw an element of excitement here, and that's really great, and that's really something to build upon. And some of the conversations on the hallway were really great.
So you've helped. You and Mark have both helped contribute to that excitement, and we're so lucky that you were able to come and be part of this, both in Copenhagen and here in Hong Kong as well, and to see more discussions around Zen on Arm. And thanks so much for driving that. I mean, I know it's not just you, it's many people, in your community that do that, but you're here and you're the face of that as the community manager. So thanks for doing that. People who are watching this interview who said, I want to get involved with Zen on Arm, where can they go to get involved?
Well, fundamentally, there's a mailing list, Xendibel. Just go to the Xen.org website. We also have a wiki which gives you instructions, how to get started with Xen on Arm. In fact, our community is really friendly. I know it's quite hard sometimes to work with the Linux kernel, and if you're familiar with working with the Linux kernel, you find a lot of similar patterns in Xen. But generally, people are a bit more helpful and friendlier, and it's a lot easier to get started with. And also, if you just want to have a conversation, how the process works, where you find stuff, you can just drop me a line on communitymanager.xen.org, and just drop me a line, and then I'll start connecting you to the right people, pointing to you to resources and so on and so forth.
Well, and I'm sure you'll see some of us at Linaro with our little Linaro IRC cloaks popping up in some of your channels here or there. So, again, I can't say enough about how great it was to have you here presenting those sessions, and the excitement that you have around the project, because it bleeds over. People can't help but get excited about it because you're excited about it. And I think that's what it's going to take to really drive some of this, is that passion. And you certainly have that. Is there anything about Zen, about Linaro Connect and your participation here, anything about what Mark presented? I'm hoping to track him down a little bit later. Or anything that's coming up in the future that I haven't asked you about that you want people to know about?
Actually, one of the things people who are just generally interested in Xen should do is we have a whole area of presentations about some of the cool stuff in a project. Some really cool stuff coming down the line. So we have a number of library OSs. These are operating systems which run in a VM, which directly interface with the Xen hypervisor. Things like Erlang on Xen, and that's something really cool. There's a lot of really cool functionality which we haven't covered, which generally applies to Xen. So, for example, building a highly secure environment with Xen is something which is really, really a hot topic at the moment. Every single time I go to shows, security comes up in every second or third conversation I have with people, and that's something to watch out for. And eventually, once we have it all running on ARM-based servers and when the hardware is available, I think some of the more exciting and higher level features will become a hot topic.
I said this in another interview yesterday, and I'm going to say it again. I overused the word exciting at this event because it is so exciting, and you're right. I'm looking forward to seeing all of that come to fruition and seeing where people can get involved, both with Linaro, but with Zen as well. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to sit down and talk to me. I know it's difficult in the late afternoon with jet lag kicking in on day 2. So thank you so much for doing it. And I look forward to seeing you at some other community events and at the next Connect.
We'll definitely be in Dublin. I'm looking forward to the beer and the pubs and whatever else you have planned. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to have this interview.
Thank you.